Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're well. I was just on here a minute ago recording a ton of videos for you. I'll explain in a minute what I was doing. So I went to upload them all to Instagram and I managed to record the whole lot on slow-mo. So it all started all right, then it went into slow-mo. It's horrific. So I'm doing it again. So bear with me. Right, let's try again. So what I came on to talk about was, I always say to you all about looking for signs, being aware of signs when you're being shown things all the time and going with your gut. Now, for the past, 4 months or so, I knew something was amiss. Couldn't put my finger on it, even though deep down I did actually know what it was, but didn't want to admit it. After lots of meetings with Rockpool, lots of discussions, they came up with the same thing I did. So to me, that means my gut was right. Now, don't panic. I'm not giving up the business. It's nothing like that. But I'm going to reassess the business and put some new things in place. By this, I mean, I'll do an example. Now, take it as I'm saying it. Don't think I'm being obnoxious. I'm just saying as it is, as I always do. If you're a new person who's decided to start decorating cupcakes or want to go down the buttercream flower journey and you land onto my Instagram page, if you look at my flowers, potentially you'll be intimidated. I'm not saying that in an obnoxious way. I don't mean, my flowers are so intimidating. I don't mean that. If you're coming to this a novice and you look at them and you'd probably think I'd never be able to do that, which is what I did right at the beginning of my start of doing buttercream flowers. I never thought I'd be able to do it, and look where I am now. So as I said, after many meetings with Rockpool, I have decided to go right back to the beginning. Now, by going right back to the beginning, I mean from the start, how I ended up doing this, setting up tailor-made cake courses, where I started, because I don't actually have any baking background. I have no qualifications in baking. All I have is my level 2 health and hygiene, and that's it, food hygiene. That's all I have. I'm a qualified nail tech and beauty therapist. Nothing to do with cakes. So don't let that stop you, if that is what's stopping you starting a business or taking this up as a hobby. Anyone can do it. So for me, this started when Oliver went to school. As you know, we don't always obviously know. That's why I'm doing this. I'm doing this for all the new people. I know for everyone else who's already heard it, close your ears or move on, whatever. I wanted to have a job when Oliver went to school. I've got 5 kids, and once Oliver went to school, I thought it was going to be like this amazing, ladies that go for lunch and this, that and the other. But problem was, all my friends worked, so that didn't work out. So I got really bored. So all my friends, some of my family sort of said, I don't know why you don't do like cakes, because you love doing them. But obviously I only ever did them just for my family here. Wasn't exactly a passion. I just loved making them. I didn't have a passion for cakes. So after much persuasion, Fran at Rockpool and Emily set me up a Facebook page. So to begin with, I literally sold cupcakes like salted caramel, flavoured cupcakes, and vanilla ones with the old Mr. Whippy icing and jammy Dodgers on top and things like that. So they're all I sold. But very quickly, I got bored, very, very bored, very, very quickly. I'm one of these, I quite like to push myself. So I was looking for sort of another outlet. And I came across Dawn from Dee Dee's Cupcakes. She'd made this gorgeous floral bouquet. I couldn't believe there were cakes, and messaged her and asked where she learned to do it. She basically learned online for this wrapping course, which I then obviously did and got the absolute bug for it. I went on to Cupcake Gemma. You probably all heard of her. She's one of Jamie Oliver's finds. And she was doing buttercream hydrangeas. So I had a go at those and I thought, that was quite easy. So I thought, right, I need to push myself and do more. So I literally sold my first bouquet. It was horrendous. I'll put a picture up of it next. But it wasn't horrendous at the time. I'd say it now, obviously, because what I can do now. But at the time, I was so chuffed with it. So chuffed with it. And I sold it to my husband's boss for his wife for her birthday. And she was made up with it. And that's where it all started. So that's where I got my bug for it. Now, within no amount of time, I was very busy with the floral cupcakes, because obviously they're something unique. They're different, aren't they? So one thing I get asked quite a lot is, do I think that cupcake bouquets will almost go out of fashion? Are they just a fad or a trend? No, they're not. People always want birthday cakes. People always have birthdays. And flowers have never dated, have they? People still buy floral bouquets. They'll always be here. So having that combo of the two will always be a winner. Now, the idea of this for me to set up was to give my family a bit of extra sort of disposable income. Obviously, my husband's wage was fine, we were doing fine, but it was just nice to have that sort of extra bit of cash. And to be honest, for me to go and buy what I wanted without having to ask for money, which I know a lot of you probably have to as well. I used to hate it. You know, you almost have to plead your case if you want a new coat or a pair of shoes or something like that. And to be able to just buy it yourself is very empowering. So my husband Lee said, you know, if you could earn sort of a couple £100 a month, that'd be fab. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. And obviously at the beginning, it was like, that's a lot. That's a lot of money, you know, to try and get people to buy cakes. But it was never an issue. It was never an issue from day one. I was always busy. Made sure I was very active on my Facebook page. I didn't have Instagram to start with. I just started with the Facebook page. And people locally to me loved it. They loved all what I was doing. But as I said, sorry, I was backtracking. For me, the floral cupcakes were my passion, I would say. Obviously, I love doing the flavoured ones. They're so easy. If you want to do a quick earner, they're amazing because you can batch bake those. So you could still offer those if you wanted to. But obviously, the cupcake bouquets are another league. They're another level. They're art. Now, I won't lie to you, it was hard. It was very hard having 5 kids at home, husband, 2 dogs at the time. Because my first bouquet took me 4 hours. 4 hours to do a bouquet. And I remember my husband walking in and the kitchen was carnage. There was stuff everywhere, buttercream in my hair, everywhere. But I was still so chuffed that I produced this gorgeous bouquet. As I said, I'll put the picture up in a minute and you'll see it. And he said, how are you going to earn in, you know, how are you going to make any money? The length of time that's taken you and what you're going to charge for it does not sort of add up. It's like, just give me time. That was my first one, you know, give me time. And that is key in this business, is time. How long something takes you is what you'll basically earn, what your profit is. But because I had such a passion for it, I did practice a lot. So I would wait till the kids were in bed generally and then work through the night. I'm quite lucky. I don't have to have a lot of sleep. Obviously having 5 kids, and Lex, my 4th, never slept until she was 11. So I was used to being up. She used to go off to sleep, but couldn't stay asleep. So I used to get all my work done then, and hubby would take over with her. And I would practice a lot. Just keep having a go, keep playing with nozzles. Because I did find that when I looked online, there wasn't necessarily sort of the flowers I was looking for to pipe, because they're all sort of quite standard flowers. I wanted them to look more realistic. But as I said, I did used to look at other people's work and think, oh, if I could be anything like that in a couple of years or a year or 6 months or whatever, I'll be made up. And it took no time at all, I can assure you. It may not feel like it at the time, but you soon, when you keep practicing, you can see the change happen. Sometimes in a few days, you'll see a massive difference. And my end goal was always, what a goal I set for myself was to make my buttercream flowers look as realistic as possible. I wanted to fool the customer into thinking it was a bouquet of real flowers. Now, this happened quite early on when I delivered a cupcake bouquet to a dear old lady whose birthday it was. It was a surprise gift. And I handed them over and she asked me when they needed to be watered. And it was like, yes, done it. That's literally all my aim was for that to happen. And that's where it sort of kept growing from there. So, as I say, quite early on I got to that point. But it is purely down to the time and effort that you put in. You can't, you know, pipe a flower and then pick it up again 3 months later and expect to be amazing. It's something like anything else. The more you practice, the better you become. Now, at this point, this was sort of year and a half in, I had gone from Lee saying to me, can you earn a couple of £100 a month extra, to £1,000 a week. That's how much I used to do in cake orders. It was insane. But I was working 7 days a week. Into the night, I accepted every order that came in the door. I didn't want to turn it away because I thought then I've lost that customer, you know, and I had all this pressure. And then things needed to change because obviously I wasn't very well. You can't work like that continuously, and my family suffered. Lee would take the kids off. I would miss out on family events because I was doing orders for people, or customers wouldn't turn up on time and things like that. So I used to miss out on family time. And then the crunch point for me was my daughter Alexia. This one comment she made to me that changed everything for me. I was obviously working. She came in and obviously said something to me, and I said, in a minute. And I obviously quite clearly did that a lot. And I said to her, what did you say? I said, like, what did you mutter under your breath? She said, that's all you ever say to me. And I literally put my stuff down that I was doing and went over to her and obviously had a long chat. Lots of crying. Because I realised what I was going to make me cry now. Realised what I was doing. And things needed to change. Why would I jeopardise my time and my family over making an order for someone? You know, it's ridiculous. So I quickly changed my plans to only working during the week. The weekends were family time. Everything was picked up by Friday. Friday night was the latest collection time. And that was it. I had my weekends back. Still earned enough money. As I said, I only needed to earn £200 a month, and I was far exceeding that. So I didn't need to. So if you are starting this, do remember that your family always comes first. Cake can wait. It's cake. People can wait, or they can go elsewhere if you're not available. Sorry, I just had to pull myself together. By that happening, again, obviously happened for a reason. I believe everything happens for a reason. So things completely changed for us. And I was much happier because I was obviously getting time with the kids. I wasn't missing out on making memories, and I was still earning a decent wage. More than decent wage, more than I could ever earn if I went back down the beauty industry or went and got a job. I'd never earn that sort of money. So it was all fantastic. But then, on a daily basis, I was being asked if I would teach how to do the buttercream flowers. And to begin with, I was like, no way. The thought of teaching someone how to do something literally made my blood run cold. And then it got to the point where it was 3 or 4 times a day, just continuously. And I was going, no. And in the end, obviously I caved because Fran and Emily at Rockpool said, you've got to do something about this. And I know, because I've always been very hippy-dippy like that. If you're being told something enough times, you need to act on it. So I was like, fine, I'll do it. And second I released my workshops, it went mental. Sold out within a couple of hours. Yeah, it was crazy. It was absolutely mental. I obviously didn't have the space here at home, so because I took on 12 people to have a class. So I hired this gorgeous venue called the Secret Garden, which is quite near me. And the day of the class, I was all ready, it was all good to go. Fran was obviously with me. If you don't know who Fran is, she's the woman behind the scenes. She does all the admin, all the tech stuff. And Emily and Jenny, obviously, from Rockpool, they all do it. But Fran's sort of the one that comes to me with classes and stuff like that. And we're both standing there. I've got all these people in front of me in the class. It's all set up ready. And I went to start talking and I could feel my lip going. My lips started wobbling. And I was like, not now. Seriously, not now. Why are you doing this now? So I had to excuse myself and say to them all, really sorry, just give me 5 minutes. So I went into the toilet and literally looked in the mirror and was like, get a grip. These people are here to learn how to pipe buttercream flowers. You know how to pipe buttercream flowers. Get on with it. So which is literally what I did. I gave myself a good talking to and went back in there and had the most amazing class. Every student went home with 12 flowers. I think it was 12. Something like that. They went away with a silly amount of flowers. They're all really happy. And once the last person left, Fran and I literally crumbled to the floor and burst into tears. Not through being upset, obviously. It was, if I'm being honest, it was pride. I was stupidly proud of myself. I just stood in front of a room and taught 12 people how to pipe buttercream flowers. It's so empowering having, you know, all these people turn up who, some of them potentially never even picked up a piping bag, to walking out with 12 floral cupcakes. It was so empowering, and just, I was so proud of them all. And like I said, of myself for being able to teach it to them. So that started that off. So obviously I had to book more classes because more wanted to come. They all kept filling up and filling up. But then it got to the point where people from abroad were being held back, obviously, because they couldn't just fly over and have a class. It's not as simple as that. So that's when we started looking down the online route. Now, I never thought this would massively take off. I don't know why. I just didn't. I just thought people would prefer sort of the one-to-one, you know, in-person courses. But it went crazy. It went absolutely crazy. I only had a Wix website at the time, which was man enough at the time, because we weren't assuming there were going to be that many people that would sign up for the classes, for the videos, sorry, but they did. And before long, the website was just not man enough, the level of students that I had. So we had to have a whole massive new website built, all singing, all dancing WordPress site, which is now a game changer, because whatever we do to it, or whatever Fran and Emily do to it, it works, and we don't need to get hold of anyone because they all just deal with it. So that's how that came about. So that's when Tailor Made Cake Courses was born, because obviously before that I was Tailor Made Cakes of Tenterden, that's where I live. So I was still doing orders as well as the classes, and it was all becoming a bit much again. But say all the students kept coming in, they're all really happy, all just starting their businesses. It was blooming amazing, it really was. So that was all ticking along nicely, and then I got a few emails from, I don't know if I could say the name or not. I'm just going to say it. I always say I'm not saying the name, but you know it is. I got an email from Harrods in London, the big department store. If you don't know, in the UK, if you're not from the UK, it's like a famous store in London. And I thought it was junk mail. So I ignored the first 3 emails because I thought it was some sort of joke. And then Fran rang me one day and said, no, this is real. You've actually been contacted by Harrods. So obviously we returned the email and went up for a meeting. Went up for various meetings, and their plan was to have my floral cupcakes in their food hall, which was obviously all very exciting. You know, couldn't believe that Harrods had asked me to have a stand in their cake area and things like that. It was all organised. The launch party was organised, and we assumed the price was organised until it came to the crunch, and they wanted to pay me £1 a cupcake basically, whilst they were selling them for £8 a cupcake. No, this was not going to happen. Now, I turned this down. A lot of you probably think I'm mental, because who wouldn't want to have something in Harrods? It's like the most famous department store. I wouldn't do it. I value myself a lot more than that. For what they wanted them for, the level, the amount they wanted, it wasn't doable. I'd obviously taken on 2 or 3 people. I had 2 or 3 people lined up to come work for me. But again, I've never seen my children. And it was something I couldn't, it didn't feel right. It didn't sit right. As I said, I always go with my gut. And considering the fact that, you know, they spent half time saying, you know, the works of art, they're delicious, this, that and the other. And then to almost insult me by charging £1 a cupcake, it was a no-no. Now, I was gutted, obviously. As I said, family members and some friends and that couldn't believe I turned it down. But I value myself a lot more than that, and my business. So, yeah, that was the end of that. All that did teach me was not to become a supplier. So, obviously, you all do what you want to do, whatever. But all that taught me was you're never going to get a good profit from being a supplier for someone. Because obviously, they've got to make their margin on it as well. So, that's all that taught me. But because of that, because of the Harrods thing, I made a very stupid mistake in leasing a unit, a cake studio, which is not far from my house. It was absolutely beautiful. We kitted it out. It was gorgeous, and it was a bigger area for me to have my classes. So much more room for my students. But the Harrods thing didn't come off. So that was one rookie error, which I will never do again. Don't get me wrong, I loved the cake studio. It was beautiful where it was, the setting, everything. It was gorgeous. But obviously I didn't really need it now. So it was absolutely gutting. And then, as I said, I think all things happen for a reason. COVID then hit. So that was the opportunity for me to pull out of my lease and get rid of the cake studio. Now, weirdly, I thought I would feel better by not having my business at home, because you'll probably notice if you've started your business at home, it almost feels like it takes over the house sometimes, especially if you're one of these that buys 50,000 rolls of cellophane and you've got equipment everywhere. It takes over your house. But what I found was I worked so much better at home. The minute I came home and gave up that cake studio, that's when everything just came alive. So clearly I'm meant to work from home. I'm a serial home bird anyway. I would be here 24/7 if I could. I love being at home. I love my home. I love my kids. I love being here. So that's clearly where I needed to work. And what was so weird was when I was at the cake studio, I never had any sort of inspiration. You know, no new flowers really came to mind and stuff like that. But the second I got home and started working from home, don't get me wrong, it was tight. Because obviously I've been used to this 2-room, massive kitchen to prepare my cupcakes, you know, and do everything, to being back into my tiny garage, which we converted. But I didn't care. I was home and I was comfortable. And if the kids needed me, I'm obviously 2 seconds away. They've got to literally open the door and I'm there. And all the ideas and the inspiration just started flowing, and clearly where I should be. Now that brings me back to date, where we are. Now, I have lost my mojo over the last 4 months or so, but I think it's been this. When something is not right, you get a blockage. You literally get a blockage. I knew something was up and I couldn't figure it out, even though my gut had figured it out. I just wouldn't admit to it. That I need to go back to the beginning. I need to literally go back from the start for all of my new followers, my new students who have never seen me from the start. So you won't know that I've come from nothing. I never piped buttercream flowers before I started doing them, obviously. And where you can be now, it's anyone can do it. Literally anyone. There's nothing stopping you. You don't need to outlay thousands, not even hundreds. It's one thing I learned along the way, which is why I talk so much about it and give everyone so much information, is because I don't want you to make the same mistakes I did. The second I started doing the cupcake bouquets, I must have had 15, 20 different cellophanes, all different patterns, designs, colours, tissue paper. I had every colour known to man. Bows, I had every colour known to man. I bought every nozzle known to man, which half of them I never even used. You don't need to do that. The outlay can be minimal, literally minimal. Now, if funds are tight, which I know they are for everybody right now, including us, you know, we're no different than anybody else. You can start this business from my YouTube channel. You don't need to spend a penny. Not on tutorials anyway. Obviously, you'll need to buy nozzles, piping bags, which obviously are available on my shop, or you can get them elsewhere, wherever you want. But if you want to learn how to do the bouquets, obviously you'll need the wrapping tutorial. So potentially, from me, you'd only need to spend £30. Now, that might sound a lot, but you'd need to make 1 cupcake bouquet to get your return on investment. 1 cupcake bouquet. That is it. So as I say, you don't need to invest lots of money. And especially if you want to do it as a sideline business, I wouldn't invest a lot of money. I would literally do the most basic flowers, or classic flowers as I call them, and go from there. You don't need to invest a lot of money. But let's face it, the way things are at the moment, this is set to stay in, isn't it, for a couple of years. So we all need to batten down the hatches and do what we can to earn some extra money. I might even go back to piping for customers yet. I haven't quite decided. I don't know if I want to go back down that road. But if needs must, I absolutely will. So I hope this has given you a bit of an insight into my life, how it started, and that you don't need to be some sort of all singing, all dancing cake decorator, because I certainly am not. I just obviously like doing buttercream flowers. And I look at real flowers. I don't go by other buttercream flowers. I look at real flowers, work out which nozzle would make the petals look like they do, and I go from there. That's purely how I do it. So that's how I started and where I am now. And as I said, I'm just a mum like everybody else, just found a gap in the market as such, and I do believe in abundance thinking. If you don't know what that is, Google it. I give out quite a lot, which obviously you'll know from the amount of information I give everybody. Lots of bakers hold lots close to their chest, and I don't believe in it. If you want people to succeed, you want them to be as successful as you are, you share that information, you share that knowledge. So that's what I do.